Hello and welcome to another video. We're still talking about JavaScript, but we're going to talk about constructor, or as we call it, class traditionally. So if I wanted to design a class, the class in JavaScript is no different conceptually than the class in any other object-oriented languages. So it's going to be basically divided or contains two types of features, or actually two types of divisions, or two types of what we call parts is a better word of all the word that I have used. The first part is going to deal with the attributes or the property of the class, which means the adjective associated with it, characteristics, in other words. And the second part of the class will deal with the functions, but we should be calling them methods, because any time we have any sort of task or function within a class, to distinguish it from a function that is floating on its own by itself, that we have seen in the parallel arrays example, because we did not really associate that function with any class. It's just a function that has nothing to do with a specific containers or potential objects in the future. So a method would be a better choice, not a better choice, it's much better choice in order to understand that we are referring to a function within a class. So let's take a look at this, and we will actually delve directly in this type of discussion, so we'll be able to relate to it. Uh, First of all, I want you to be very careful that the word function is overly used or overloaded in a way that, depending on where it's used, uh, a class or a constructor in JavaScript also starts with the word function. So we don't say class, we say the word function is lowercase. It's a good convention to name the class, which is going to be the constructor, with a capital letter to distinguish this name from maybe a potential name later when you wanted to refer to your object as book with the lowercase b. Of course, you're going to have as many books as you want of type book with the capital B. And we specified here, as you all know, that JavaScript is a loose data type language. It's nothing like Java, that has a very strong uh, data type language. C is another famous one for that, C++. Almost everything has to do with robust language or programming languages. Of course, they have the data type, because we're dealing mostly with the client side. Everything is going to be run on your computer, so the security aspect of it, or not really that huge of a problem, like if you really have to run it into a compiled mode. So interpreted languages like JavaScript it was designed with that in mind. So we're going to have three variables are going to be passed to the constructor or the class when we do actually declare it of different type of when we do declare object of this type, we're going to be sending three variables. These variables, when I say the word variable, you're going to see later that we could actually send it a whole array as one of those elements. So when we say variable, let's say three items, and these items could be determined later. So here I'm going to have T, and I have a P, and I have a PA. But before I even talk about the T and the P and the PA, I have to already have set by somewhere, maybe with another colleague or another coworker or a classmate, to decide what are these interesting, or what I am interested in knowing about a book. What characteristics I want to really associate with the book. First, we could come up with 100 of those, but due to the fact that I'm interested for a smaller example like this, with only the title of the book, only the price of the book, and obviously the number of the pages of the book. So those are what I'm going to be sending them to the constructor when I create an object of this type of constructor. So T is going to be actually assigned to the local variable within the constructor, uh, even using the word local is not going to be really meaningful because anything has to be preceded by the word this that is part of the constructor, part of the class, which means any other future methods are going to be able to see this value because it's preceded by the keyword this. See, I don't have to really introduce this in a local scope later, like a function later, because this all the methods later will be able to access this titles. Nobody can access t because t is going to come from the outside world. The only way I could access the value of t by assigning t to a variable or attribute that is pertaining to the class. And in order for me to say this is really part of the class, I must precede it with the keyword this. So I have three of those. I have this dot title it's going to be assigned to the t value. P is going to be assigned to, I'm sorry, P is going to be assigned to this dot title. P is going to be assigned to this dot price, and PA, of course, you could name it whatever you want here. It doesn't have to be, but those should never change through the access limit through all the method that you're going to be used later. So now, once we actually send those three values, this dot title, this dot price, this dot pages can be accessed by any future method or any future action. I'm calling action because function or method is really going to result in doing something. It's a verb by nature. So here I'm creating another, if I don't specify it yet, if you don't see this actually, pretend that you don't see it, I'll say this dot print data. That means this is going to be an attribute. Nope, because I said this is going to be assigned to a function name. That means this dot print data suddenly has become a method. Of course, print is a verb, so it makes sense to really name all your method with a verb like keyword. So now, as you notice here, because I am inside the print data, this dot print data is going to be able to see this dot title, it's going to see this dot price, it's going to see this dot pages. So I don't have to tell it where to get it from. This dot title will be able, this print data will be able to access this title because these are part of the class when I create them. And not only this, I'm going to be able to format the price to point to the right of the decimal point. And of course, the number of the pages, I'm having a division line or whatever decorative output I would like to include. So every time I actually call later the print data from somewhere in the script or another script after I declare an object of type book, I will be able to access the print data methods. There's another method here, as you notice, that this .tags, which going to be able to access also all the elements, all the variables, all the attributes for this class. And notice here, I'm declaring a constant variable. It's called tax rate. So nobody should be able to change this because it's constant unless you come to this area and change it. And I'm declaring a local variable directly inside this .tags function or methods. And notice very easily, the difference between this .price and this .price, which I had by mistake added another space, so I'm going to take it away, and the tax rate. The tax rate, no other methods within the class will be able to see tax rate because that's local directly to this .tags methods. But because this .price is, of course, a main attributes or property inside the class, of course, this function or this method will be able to see it. Of course, this function, the whole purpose from it is to return the tax due based on the price of the book multiplied by the tax rate. Living in Texas, this is 8.25%. There's another method. Since I'm able to access the price, I could go ahead and add by the call of the method this .tags because this is a method that preceded by the keyword this. Of course, everything has to do with this. It can be accessible by other methods. So actually, I could go ahead and call that method directly from the full price method, it's going to return a value. And this value is going to come back to me inside this function. It's going to add to the price. And now I'm having a variable with the full price. Then I will return the full price to any call from within an object. So this is basically extremely important to realize this. This is the end of the design. One more time, this design for the constructor is going to have three major attributes: this dot title, this dot price, and this dot pages. It's going to have three methods to print the data as a whole and to actually go ahead and calculate the tax and return it. And not all the method, like this method, return something. They do all the task or job or action directly within them. But these two methods actually return something. This is return the tax. This is return the full price for the book. Let's go ahead and create an object directly. I'm going to go ahead and call it my book. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and call it my book, and just using the camel casing for better. And I'm declaring my book, which I could create an array of it. I'm going to be actually demonstrating this and how to do that in the next video. I'm not going to be able to really make a long video, but we're going to stop as soon as we make sure that when we declare one single book of that book, and I'm sending the title of the book, is going to be, as you notice, it's going to be received when created the object inside the memory. So my book has now this.title is going to be based on the value of hello there, because I send it as T. And T will be given it to this.title. So any other functions, inside the object my book will be able to see what the title of the book. Now the 434, obviously it's going to be the price. That's a lot of money for a book. Maybe I should really change it to 43 and make maybe the page is 356. So the page numbers is going to be 350. Now, if I could go ahead now and print all the data, okay, I wanted to go ahead and print all the data just by testing if this is going to work. Of course, for this to work, if I declared the array as by the name my book, it should be, of course, my book, because I cannot call it here my book and call it book here and expect magic that's going to happen. JavaScript's not going to realize that. So let's go ahead and run this and see if we're going to be able to get the title hello there. Let's go ahead and change this to something maybe famous like Gone with the Wind. That's one of the better books. Okay. Okay. And as of course, we could make it very large, but I'm going to go ahead and save this and just test it very quickly. And here we go. All right, great. As you notice here, if I could maximize the screen here a little bit, so I'll be able to see it. I'm pressing control, holding control and pressing plus sign for you to see that's exactly what I wanted to get. Let's go ahead and go back to it. Since this object, also my book, has complete access to any other method like the stacks and also the full price, I could go ahead and do something like this. I could say my book, documents rather, dot write, and tax due is going to be, that's the amount of tax due. It's going to be basically, because I called the object with my book, so it already recognized the price, which is in this case is $43. And I could go ahead now, I call the my book, okay, dot, and the function is going to be really called this tax in this case. And I'm not going to actually send anything because all the data is being able to, the object will be able to access them inside the memory. I'm going to go ahead and add another line to get it here. And notice I could even do something like this, because I know this is going to return something for me. I could go ahead and say to fixed, and whatever value is going to be returned, put it into 2-digit to the right of the decimal point. I hope this will work, so I don't have to waste any time. And if it does, we'll do one more things and we'll continue. Go ahead and see. All right, so the tax due is a 3.55 based on this. If I change this to 100, we should be able to get the 8.25. I'm going to go ahead and change it anyway just to make sure that everything's okay. But one more thing, I wanted to go ahead and say here document dot write, you know, and let me go ahead and use this, and I'll say here the full price, or let's say here price, complete price. I'm going to go ahead and align this, and here we go. And we're going to say here my book. I'm sure you guessed it because the tax is already been calculated, or actually, yeah, because the function is going to be calling another function, so it does the calculation, return it. It knows what the price of the object, which is in this case is $100, and I'm going to say my book full price. Okay, and not only this, of course, all the method must be followed by two parentheses. And I also could go ahead, knowing that this function is going to return a number, I could use the toFix function to format it the way I want it. I could go ahead and add another line just to see here. And I will save this one here as well. So let's go ahead and run it. Hopefully we'll have the title of the page, a number, the price, the title, number of pages, then the taxes, and eventually the full price for it. Here we go. Excellent. It was $100. So we know that based on $100, we should be able to get $8.25 for the tax. So the full price will be $108.25. I'm going to stop here because this is going to be a larger video if I continue to talk about it. The idea is behind the next video. Please watch for it. It's going to be using an array of objects. So we don't have to be stuck with one book. Maybe one book, two books, that's fine. Even sometimes three books, but after three books, believe me, you're going to get lost to which book you're referring to. Just like when we have too many elements, we would like to have an array to keep it as a data structure. The same thing, we're going to have an array of objects, but that's going to be the next video. Thank you for watching.